Morning, Matt. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all. Hello. Okay, let's do some meditation. All right, so let's start as usual with just a few minutes of silent meditation. It's always good to spend a little bit of time focusing the mind. You can use the breath for this in whatever way is suitable for your own mind in terms of what works for you. And again, after a few minutes in silence, then I will come in, lead you in setting motivation. And today we're going to do a meditation on refuge. I think it's always nice to return to that topic. Lama Yeshe used to say, we don't take refuge, we do refuge. So we have to kind of continually do that, make that a part of our lives. So we'll begin again with just a few minutes of silent meditation on the breath. So now let's set our motivation for today's meditation by recalling how when we generate this motivation of bodhicitta, it's essentially about becoming a refuge for others, being intent upon helping them, protecting them from suffering, bringing them to happiness. And we do see that right now we're incapable of protecting others perfectly. We therefore need to work on our own minds, develop our own qualities, remove our own negative tendencies, so that we then can be perfectly qualified to help others, to be a refuge for them. So before we engage in this meditation on refuge, let's cultivate that motivation of bodhicitta that aspires to become fully enlightened so we can be the perfect refuge for all beings and lead them to perfect enlightenment as well. So in the first part of this meditation, we're going to look back on our own experience with what we would call, taking refuge or finding something that would protect us at various times in our lives. We can begin before we even knew what it was to seek refuge. When we were quite young as infants, who we depended upon at that time, our caregivers, generally our parents, others involved. And then just take this throughout your life as you were then a toddler, a child, a teenager, a young adult, throughout this life. What were the various things that you turned to when you were experiencing suffering, when you needed some comfort? What were your refuges? And again, as you examine each of these, question, were they lasting refuges? Were they true refuges? Did they really get me what I was seeking in a much deeper way? So spend a few minutes investigating your own experience throughout this life in seeking refuge and what it was that you found that you placed some sort of confidence in, and whether it really was worthy of that confidence. So, in looking at all the things that we've turned to for some sort of solace or protection throughout our lives, no doubt we've seen that they were all somewhat insufficient, whether they were other people, such as our parents or partners, whether they were things that we indulged in, and drugs, alcohol, entertainment, sex, all the various things that we turn to. All of these are not really reliable protections. They aren't perfect. So we ask the question, can we find a perfect refuge? Let's examine the three jewels of refuge as the rest of this meditation to see if we can determine their reliability and therefore have greater confidence in them in our lives. And we start with the Buddha jewel. Buddhas are beings who have become fully enlightened. They've done the two major bits of work, completely abandoned everything that is negative within their minds that obscures it. And they've developed all the perfect qualities, their wisdom, their compassion, their love. They have the ability to benefit others, to act exactly in accord with the karma beings to help them on their path. So reflect for the next few minutes on your own understanding of what we mean by a Buddha, a fully enlightened being, and ask yourself the question, is that a reliable refuge? Does it have what I'm looking for in terms of ability to always be there, to be dependable, to be reliable, to provide the guidance that I'm seeking? So again, spend some time investigating the first jewel, the Buddha. Try to come to some conclusion about whether that is a reliable object of refuge. Then let's move on to the Dharma jewel. And for where we are all at, this is perhaps the greatest object of refuge. So we have to examine it and determine our own confidence in the Dharma. So one of the aspects of Dharma, of course, is the scriptures, the teachings of the Buddha. And here, recall your own experience with the teachings of the Buddha. Essentially, we can divide them into three main categories: those that teach morality on the basis of the teachings on karma, those that teach how to develop concentration, to work with our minds, to be able to use them in very powerful ways, and then, of course, the teachings on wisdom, and help us to know how things exist in our conventional world as well as the deepest level of reality. And so many other branches of the Buddha's teachings that come from those three. Do your own examination in terms of your conviction that these scriptures, these teachings, when applied in our minds, which of course is the other aspect of Dharma, when we develop some level of realization, some actualization of them, can actually protect us from suffering, can help us to find the solace that we seek. So again, spend some time investigating the Dharma jewel in particular to develop some level of confidence. And then we look at the third jewel, the Sangha jewel. So while we loosely use the term Sangha to refer to our spiritual community, each of us being part of what we call the Sangha, when we talk about the Sangha jewel, we're talking about those beings who have integrated the Dharma more deeply into their minds, especially those who have attained direct realization of the nature of reality, emptiness. So those beings have the wisdom, the knowledge to be able to guide us, to be true supports on our spiritual path. So once more, examine them and see if from that vantage point of beings who have realized reality at that level, are they a reliable refuge? Are they someone we then can place our faith, our confidence in, and generate true refuge in? And then we might ask the question, well, are there beings who embody the three jewels that we can then rely upon as a more direct way of having refuge in our lives? And just entertain the idea of the possibility that these beings are here. People like His Holiness the Dalai Lama or Lama Zopa Rinpoche, or perhaps other spiritual guides that we have, are those Sangha jewels for us. They have developed deeper realizations. They have the Dharma imbued in their minds through their own actualization of it. And perhaps they are even Buddhas. Perhaps they are enlightened beings who are here in this world to help us. And just entertain that idea of perhaps our refuge is in the gurus then, because the gurus are the embodiment of the three jewels. And just sit with that for a little bit and see if you can generate some confidence that perhaps these beings are a worthy refuge for us, are a reliable refuge. And then lastly, come to some conclusion, having done this reflection about how you take refuge throughout your day, how you find safe direction. As I said at the beginning, Lama Yeshe said, we don't take refuge, we do refuge. So what does it mean to you then to live your life with confidence, especially in the Dharma, Joel, especially in these teachings, as well as the guides who help us to learn it, to practice it? How do we rely upon the Dharma, especially throughout our day? And make a determination to do that to the best of your ability, having done this reflection. Then let's dedicate all the positive energy we've created by doing this meditation so we can become a source of refuge for others. We can help them to be free from their suffering and find true peace and happiness. Also dedicate for the good health and long lives of our precious gurus, recognizing that we do need them as a source of safe direction in our lives. And then finally dedicate for all those beings that you're holding in your heart right now who are experiencing difficulty, problems, illness, whatever suffering, those who have died, and think that they benefit from what we've done here today, being free of their suffering and finding the happiness that they seek. And may all beings find that happiness through our efforts here today. Wonderful. Thank you all so much for joining today. Again, have a very good day. Stay safe, and I'll see you again soon.